And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer, and Big Sky's back. Season 2. We are here. We are going to talk about it, the premiere. Um, if you're new, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment. That really helps the channel. We did all of Season 1. You can go back and watch those reviews if you'd like, get our opinion on the various storylines, characters, etc. Yeah, we're back, man. I got a lot to say. There was a lot that happened in this episode, and yeah, let's just start.
Well, it was funny. If anybody goes back and watches our old videos, the end of this episode, we actually predicted, not on purpose. We just were like, this would be outlandish, and it happened. But go ahead.
We'll jump right into that. So the ending of the first season's finale, the most head scratching moment was Cassie chasing Ronald, because we're like, what the hell are you going to do? Like she's like, we're like, he got away. You're not going to catch him. Jenny's shot. And, it's crazy. I think we didn't know if Mark was dead or not. Like there was a lot of crazy stuff happening, and then she goes chasing Ronald. It made no sense. So the opening of this episode sort of basically said exactly what we said. You're not going to catch him, and she doesn't. She stops. She realizes it. Everybody survived. Jenny's okay. Mark's okay. We have the bit of a time jump, but we get to the final scene in the episode is so good. Rick Legarski's twin brother is in fact alive and well. We got a reference of him.
Did you look up what his name was?
No.
It's Wolfgang.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wolfgang Legarski?
Yes.
Oh, so good. So Wolfgang, and I will use that name. Wolfgang Legarski. They make the illusion that Rick Legarski had a twin brother, and I mean we laughed. We thought that was hilarious. We're like, get the hell out of here. Such a soap opera type trope thing, but I'm like, good. I was excited at the idea of it. I'm like, if they do this, cool. I'm excited for it. Well, they did it. He's there. He's got a long ponytail. He's got a little farm or whatever, and he's holding Ronald prisoner in a shed. This is one of those cool scenes because at the end of the day, if they want, they don't have to revisit it for several episodes, or they can jump right into it in the next episode. They could play it either way. But yeah, you had some thoughts on what probably happened and led to Ronald being in prison.
Well, I think that he probably knew about Wolfgang, and I think that once he probably went to Wolfgang, he imprisoned him because he wants to know where that hard drive is. I think that was Ronald's sense of security, and I think the only reason that Ronald's not dead is because that hard drive is still kind of out in the open, and at this point in time, he's the only one that knows who has it. So I think that Wolfgang is kind of keeping him just to try and find out where the hard drive is. So I think that as long as that hard drive isn't found yet, that kind of gives Ronald a little bit of a failsafe. But I'm not sure what's going to happen to him because he basically exposed, not on purpose, but the entire organization. Like,
yeah, he turned his back. I mean, we can call him. I'm calling him the Canadian Syndicate, but let's call him the Syndicate. Yeah, he betrayed them. In the end, even though they sent troops to save him.
Yeah, but I think that I don't know that they necessarily were trying to save him. I think that they were trying to do the same thing. They knew, trying to find out what he knew, trying to find out, keep their assets safe. So by keeping him safe, or by him going to jail, he would have sang. He would have told on everybody. So by not letting him go to jail, kind of helped them keep themselves safe. So I think that was their intent with saving Ronald. Wasn't necessarily to save him, but to save themselves. And now I think that old Wolfgang is in charge of trying to get the information out of him.
It was such a great scene, and it was that one of the things Big Sky's known for is the last 2 minutes. Every episode's ending is a big cliffhanger, and of course this was a great one. Going back to the whole Syndicate thing, we get a little bit more about them in this episode. Little bit. Basically, Dewey, who was a state trooper as well, and he's the one that sort of helped Ronald at the end. of last season. He gets assassinated, basically. Um, we know they're looking at Cassie. We get the picture and everything. So there's more going on with that. Now, this is my question, and we'll dig deep into it. The whole drug storyline, because there's a lot of parts to it. Do you think they're connected, or do you think those are two separate plot lines?
I think it's going to end up being two separate plot lines. I think it's going to, because for this to be more of a procedural, I think that if they extend it out to 23 episodes, if they don't do it like a somewhat procedural where it's 3 or 4 episodes solving this case, 3 or 4 episodes solving this case, you can have a overarching story. But if they do it to where there's 20 episodes or 23 episodes where they're trying to solve this one thing, it's going to drag on and it's going to be shit. So I think that this drug case is a way to kind of add another thing so that they can stretch out over multiple episodes.
Yeah, there's so many parts to the drug. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that the Syndicate plot line is just sort of that overarching thing that'll run through the series, and then we're gonna have our other stories similar to what they did last season. This episode felt more focused. Yes, there's some hokey shit, and we're gonna get into it. There's some dialogue that's crazy, and it is Big Sky, but it seemed like this episode was preparing for a 20 plus episode season, where last season that wasn't the case. It felt like they were winging it week to week. This one, I felt like at the end of it, I was like, yeah, they've got a big outline because they introduced so many characters and so many, different little storylines.
Yeah, the whole people buried in the toxic sewage storyline that they're like throw together kind of quick. That part felt rushed. The first part of the story was great, all the Ronald stuff, and then the last episode where they brought it all back together was great, but those middle 5 episodes were bullshit. And this feels like they, like you said, that they have a larger story fleshed out and that it should be much more cohesive going forward.
We get well, I guess we'll go to Jenny. Jenny, now this going into the making fun of the show a little bit. And we do, if you're new to the channel, we enjoy Big Sky, but we do poke some fun where it deserves to be. Jenny was shot 6 weeks out. She decides she wants to be get back in law enforcement. Fine. The thing that made me laugh, she goes to the sheriff and she's like, I want back in the game, and he just hands her a badge. He's just like, you're in. You're an under. Does he call her under sheriff?
Yes, that's.
I was like, what is that?
It's like the number 2. She's like number 2 in command.
And then he tells her,
the street.
He's like, you don't have to worry about coming to me for warrants anymore. And then she's like, I don't want to wear a uniform. He's like, you don't have to. And so this is why I laughed. If she could have done this the entire time in season 1, why didn't she? Because she wouldn't have had to worry about all the back and forth conflict with the sheriff department. If all she had to do was say, I want in, and they were like, all right, you're second in command. You can still work with your little detective agency. You don't have to wear a uniform. You can do your own warrants without permission. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was funny because everything in this episode, it wasn't undoing the first season because they still wanted to carry over, the Ronald storyline, but it's like they were trying to set up for how the rest of the show was going to be, like everybody's role going forward. They wanted to establish that in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Their way of doing that was just this really bullshit kind of hokey way. But like you said, yes, it's bullshit. Yes, it's crazy. Yes, there's 1,000 plot holes, but there isn't a moment in this show where I'm not smiling or on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what's coming next. So no matter how shitty the show is, I don't know why, but I love it.
Yeah. We get So there's that. Then we get Cassie is still, she's still trying to hunt for Ronald, and she's sort of focusing on that instead of other cases that she needs to. Jerry is now just part of the crew. She carries a sidearm. I'm sure they had some training and
At some
over
point.
the 6 weeks. Fine, no problem with that. Now, this was the other thing that was sort of odd to me. So you bring Mark back, and it feels like stuff happened in that 6 weeks that we weren't told between like him and Cassie, because they were setting up a potential romance at the end of last season. And then it felt like maybe they tried something and it didn't work out. I don't know. I was getting a vibe that there was something going on. And then even this episode, he was just like, you know, telling her, look, I know you're into me. And if you really aren't, say no. And she's smiling and all that. So I don't know. It felt like there was something missing that we weren't told. I don't know. What did you feel about that?
I that part, what I felt was that they were implying that she spent the last 6 weeks not focusing on Mark getting hurt or Jenny getting shot. Like, her focus has solely been on Ronald getting away. And so no matter what has gone on, that's been her focus. And I think Mark was trying to be like, hey, look, we're still going to look for him. We're still going to find him, but you got to get on with your life. So that's how I took it. I actually didn't feel like anything was missing. I felt like uh, Mark was just trying to get her to stop letting that part consume her life.
Did they say? And I couldn't remember because they made it clear that he was, I guess, temporarily suspended or whatever.
Yeah,
Did that happen at the end of last season?
I don't think he got suspended, but he got in trouble because once again he was getting. It's one of those things where she's letting this case consume her completely. She's not tackling other cases and stuff. And Mark was never really supposed to be on this case. He let it consume him also because of the ties with his sister. So I think that he was probably told, hey, drop it. And then he didn't. So I think that him getting in trouble may show that the syndicate's ties are a lot further ingrained, maybe all the way up his chain as well. And I think that that's what I got from it.
Yeah,
Just
I just wasn't. Yeah, it felt like there was something, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what exactly was happening. And like you said, going back to the sister storyline, which I hope they revisit and bring up again.
Yeah, I think that it will, because I think that that's the reason they brought Mark in. I think that if they don't ever address it again, it's not going to be this huge plot hole. The whole show's a plot hole, but it's not something that would drive me to not watch it. It is something that makes me more interested in his character currently, but it's one of those mysteries that if it's not ever solved or never really brought back up, it wouldn't be a huge hindrance to the show because he's one of the main side characters,
Yeah.
but I am very interested in that storyline, but I don't know that it would be vital to the overarching story success.
One of the most awkward scenes in the entire episode for me was the bar scene. Those are the scenes where the dialogue and the acting is just spotty. I was like, oh my god, because
So bad
it's like they're trying to portray like, oh, the women are hanging out together and they're called, oh, this is the guy that's going to hit on me and they're going to have bad lines, and it was horrible. It was so horrible, but it led to an important I'm assuming what's going to be an important character. Well, he called himself Stone, which we got that whole line of dialogue,
so
but
good.
turns out his name is Travis, and he knows Jenny. He's undercover cop, and he makes the reference to, I guess he's undercover at that moment. She's aware of it. He's been undercover for a while. That's why he never reached out when Cody was killed and Jenny was hurt. But he makes the illusion that he's tied into, there's always a drug, something. My assumption is he's tied into the drug storyline.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
it's Trey from the OC.
Is it?
Yeah, he's a main character in the OC for a
I
couple.
see. Yeah, you
He
were
plays
OC
like,
guy.
yeah, but it took me forever to remember that too because I was like, "Fuck, he looks familiar," and then I finally put it together, and I was like, oh shit. But my favorite part of their whole interaction was, all right, she turns slightly and she's like, oh my god, like she starts talking about this gunshot wound that hurts, right? And then he's like, can I see it? And she's like trying to show him, and then they, so like 3 seconds after her slightly turning and complaining about a gunshot wound, she climbs on top of him, and then you know,
Dude.
fine. So I
And
was like,
she showed that wound, those, let's clarify, wounds at the beginning of the episode, and they looked gnarly. Like they were not healed. Like the stitches were still there. I mean, it looked bad. And so,
and that's
yeah,
why I was
I
dying. She's just like, oh my god, it hurts so bad, and then she's like, fuck it.
she, so yeah, they hook up, and it's like, okay, there's gonna be a little, a little romance thing. She's somebody she's interested in, and but he's gonna be tied to the drug storyline, and it's like, okay, I'm seeing a story here. Is he gonna be a dirty cop, a bad guy? Is he gonna be a good guy? Who knows? But it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I see that because everything is intersecting in some way, and we're introducing all these new elements, but they all flow very well. And so I was like, okay, cool, Travis, new character.
It's just funny because, like you said, the whole, oh, you're not the guy I thought you were. And then, him to come back. My thing is he's undercover. He just broke his undercover. What happens if
Yeah,
one of the 97 people he was working with shows up? And now that's, Helena's not a small town, but I mean, shit, it's probably only a couple 100,000. It's got a very small town mentality. It's like Montana. There's not a whole lot of big towns there. So, for him to run into her, everybody knows she's the new undersheriff. I'm sure that's not like a mystery. All of a sudden he shows up at somebody's house like that. Like that part, it may come into play. Somebody may have tailed
yeah,
him and like, hey man, so his undercover may come into, danger. So it may play in later, but to me, it was just hilarious that he was undercover and then was, felt free to go to her house after being undercover for 3 years or however long.
yeah. He wouldn't his old buddy Cody gets blown away, and he wouldn't break cover to go see him, but he sure would to go bang his wife.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Well, and it's even funnier because the way that they described the first portion of the story, it felt like it went very fast. Like it hadn't been long. Cody
yeah,
died. Then, when they were locked up, it was only like a couple months. Like the whole show from first episode to end. Um, if I remember correctly, I'm not 100% sure, but throughout the story arc, it was only a couple months long. And then they had, his funeral with the
cowboy salute.
dude, that's still probably one of my favorite scenes. Period, is his funeral. But
Yeah,
so now you have, this his best friend. They were friends on the force together, and he comes, like you said, comes to bang his wife. Like it was shitty, but it to me is a great story arc. It's funny as hell, but like you said, he's not willing to break cover to come see his dead best friend, but he's willing to come
his wife's
fornicate with
fair game at this point.
his
Yes.
widow.
Yeah, we get, which I will dub the Scooby Doo gang. We get introduced to four teens. And boy, they get into some adventures and crazy. I wouldn't call it a plot hole, but there is a dumb moment that I'm like, oh my god. But let's set it up. So we're introduced to a character, Max, and she's the babysitter for Cassie. Small world. She
Exactly.
babysits Cassie's son, who still never gets any dialogue, and outside of like one word. But
Yeah,
she
mad because mom turned down his rocket or whatever it
that was
was.
that was an awkward scene. I was like, why are you so mad? She comes in like just angry. I was like,
Like, how
okay,
fucking loud did they have it? To where like the neighbors are complaining because the TV in the living room's on loud. Like, Jesus
yeah.
Christ, it wasn't
So
a concert.
we're introduced to Max, and she lives in what I will call one of the coolest houses ever. That's a badass house. Like, has a stairway that goes up outside to an upstairs door. Like, I was like, whoa, this. How much money does your mom have? But she's dating.
To support
I
to
can't even say
support a
it.
non-working boyfriend,
Yes, T-Lock. So we're
dude.
introduced to T-Lock, and the show just screams like trouble, trouble, trouble. Like, this guy doesn't work. He's creepy. He's always staring at Max and her friend. He does, like you said, he doesn't work. He takes her fucking money from babysitting. Talks about contributing to the family. He a trouble. This character is going to be a problem.
Dude, like as soon as I saw him, all I could think of is all the adult film industry now that's like it it gave me this super creepy stepdad vibe. And I was just like, oh my God. It was the most ridiculous thing. But I was just the mom. Like, how naive is she? Does she not know that he's stealing her money? Does she just not care? Is she scared of him? So I have a lot of questions with the mom because if being a parent, if my step parent opposite of me was looking at my kids like that, they would have to leave. They would not be allowed to, like, there'd be restraining orders and all kinds of shit. So for them to be like, no, it's cool. Like, it is, I want to know more about the mom now because I have a lot of questions as far as her role in all of this.
Yeah, yeah. Um, exactly. Yeah, like you don't introduce a guy like T-Lock into your daughter's life. Like, that's just, you don't do that. Um, but like I said, it's clearly going to set up a conflict. So now let's go back because it all ties in to what I dub Eagle Guy. Um, dude just chilling in the woods, a drug interaction. He kills a guy. Well, he thinks he kills a guy. He's
Dexter
transporting.
style.
Yeah, he wraps him. Yeah, he had it all set up. He's traveling with the drugs and money. Large sum of drugs and money. We get to the woods, and Max meets up with a group of friends. So we have a pair of siblings. We have a brother and sister, and then we have her best friend, which they allude that they want to be more than friends. And so there's some kind of like romance blossoming there. We have the tattoo scene, which is sort of cool, and it's going to play it, and actually it's going to play into the plot because when she tattoos the little heart on her friend, she uses a rock to I guess absorb some of the ink. She throws it. The rock is found in a murder scene. So I was like, okay, that's cool. They're connecting, stuff. But here's the crazy shit. The truck, dude's not dead. Truck crashes. The kids come down to it to help, which that makes sense. That to me was like, okay, that made perfect sense. What didn't make sense is the guy's like, take the bags. They're coming. And dude just grabs two bags and they haul ass. Like, it was the weird. I'm sitting there, what the fuck? Like, I almost needed to rewind it. I was like, wait, what just happened? Why
Oh,
did they grab the bag? What is going on?
oh, and the best part about that too is the kid, because one of the girls was telling him, "Why are you grabbing the bag?" He's like, "You told me to." It was,
It's like they wrote it. They wrote the scene and like, yeah, this is stupid, but we're gonna go ahead and address that it's stupid. Like, why would you grab the bags? Of course, they're full of drugs and money, and they decide that we're gonna hide it at Max's house where T-Lock lives. That's not gonna go bad. He'll never find it. Um, so I'm sure that's gonna be a disaster. I'm sure he's gonna find it.
and the best part too is like when she pulled up the floorboards to that shed and just kind of dropped them
It's
under.
on the ground.
It's just on the ground. Like it's
Yeah.
not. It's not like under cinder blocks. Like to me, some like rabbit or some kind of groundhog is going to eat all those drugs, and there's just going to be like cracked out fucking wildlife running around their backyard.
Yeah, I was like, wow, what? Um, Two characters that we got to talk about. First, cowboy guy, who I'm just gonna call him cowboy guy. He
Well, we don't
comes
have a name.
in.
We don't know who he
How
is.
how the hell did he know where that truck was going to be? I guess GPS, you could make the argument. But he comes in and, finishes the job, kills Eagle Guy. And then, he really sort of got a cool little look. And like you said, you don't really see him completely. I'm assuming, he's a major player and that character is going to tie into sort of the Travis storyline with the drug cartel or whatever. And then the other character, creepy woods guy, um, we see him several times. I don't know why he's in the woods. I don't know what he's doing. He's the reason that the one girl brought her brother because they're like, yeah, we see this guy sometimes, and we need protection. He sees everything. Is he tied into the story, or is he just a guy that lives in the woods? And I don't know. But these two figures are introduced. We don't know who they are, and obviously, I'm sure they'll play a role later.
Well, they mentioned when she was talking about why she brought her brother, she had said that there's been a creepy van around. There's been, a couple people have gone missing. And so I don't know if the bearded Bigfoot guy, if he's maybe somebody who's abducting people for the Syndicate, if they're going to tie that in, or if once again, this is just kind of one of those.
Be an extra serial killer storyline or something.
Yeah, it could just be a procedural thing where he comes into play later to kind of tie up, 4 or 5 episodes where we're trying to figure out what he's doing or who he's taken, or maybe he's like a red herring, like he's trying to steer something in the wrong direction. You end up finding him, he's just some dude who's trying to live off the grid out in the woods. So I think that he's going to play a role for a short period of time, and then he's not going to matter anymore. I'm just not sure what his role is just yet.
Yeah. Yet again, like they introduce so much in such a short time, and it's funny because one of my fears, I despise lengthy season premieres, mostly because when we review them, it's a pain in the ass. When it's like you get 3 episodes or 4 episodes, and I'm like, why would you give me half the season, in 1 week? But this show didn't do that. They literally sat down. Yet again, I'm going to give a little credit to the writing team. They sat down and crafted a 2-minute episode that had 2 episodes worth of content arguably jammed into it. New characters, storylines, callbacks and continuation of things that from last season. Yes, I made fun of some of the dialogue and a few somewhat plot holes, but in terms of the narrative that they're telling and in terms of how they told the story last season, this was this is one of the tightest episodes they've ever done.
Well, and I think too, when you look at, like we said, there's the big cliffhanger endings every time. This show, if they dropped 2 episodes or it was a 2-hour episode, to me it would have taken away from their cliffhanger ending. You would have basically got a cliffhanger ending that 10 seconds later, when you turn on the next episode, you would have got the answer to. So the way that they write their show, had they given us multiple, it takes away from the ending, I think.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That's their shtick. Like that's sort of the gimmick of Big Sky, is the last 2 minutes of every episode is going to have a shocking ending, and you can't give me 3 episodes and have those endings stick really. I think I've gone through all my notes. Let me see here. Yep, we talked about Dewey. Like even that storyline, the fact that we revisited that, and it's like, oh yeah, remember this guy who works for the Syndicate, and now he's dead. I wrote down Poppernack. I think that was the name. There was a one cop that was introduced, and he was working with Jenny, and they're like, oh yeah, he talks a lot. He's a pain in the ass. I don't know if that's what his name was. That's what I wrote. But he's there.
And my thing, I don't know that he'll play an important role, or if he's
yeah, I don't know.
Because to me, the writing is already comic relief in itself. Like whether it's on purpose or not, they don't need this pain in the ass sidekick to piss Jenny off to give comic relief. The whole bar was comic relief. Like that's what I'm saying, is they don't need it.
But yeah, strong season 2 opening, I think, and very excited for where the show goes. It's a big hit. The show does very well, and If it stays on track, this show could be around a very long time.
Yeah, and like I said, you basically set it up like a procedural, have a couple overarching stories. Um, it's funny because the characters on here, like Cassie, the stuff she does irritates me. But because I get so irritated with her, it to me still makes me laugh. Like it's different because like Blacklist, uh, Elizabeth,
Season 27 or what
yeah,
season are you on?
I stopped watching it.
Is it 8 or 9 now?
I
Right?
think it's 9.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but like by the end of the season, the I I looked up what happened and I was just like, oh, good. But the Elizabeth character, like one of the main characters, by season like 4, I was like, I can't fucking stand her. Every episode that focused on whatever she was bitching about made me so angry that I was just like, I don't like it. So my fear is that the hokiness of this being funny and stuff, entertaining, um, may begin to like Cassie's role may begin to irritate me more than it makes me laugh. So hopefully they just keep doing outlandish shit with her because it's enough to kind of overwrite my irritation and make me laugh. So
Well, it's funny because if you go back to our season 1 reviews, I had a lot of issues with Mark at the beginning. I did not like him. I didn't like his dialogue. I didn't like his dynamic with Cassie. I didn't like him. And then I forget what episode, but there was an episode where it just clicked, and the two of those characters just worked together better. He made a little more sense. It felt like the actor figured out the character and the writers figured out the character, and then even him and Cassie sort of figured out their dynamic. And I was
but
like, yeah, this works. I like this.
but that's the thing. I love Cassie with Mark.
Yeah.
I like Cassie with Jerry. I don't like Cassie with Jenny. Like when those two are on screen together, it takes me.
I do prefer when they're separate. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know
I
why.
prefer when Jerry's separate. When Jerry's not with that crew, like her best stuff is when she's off doing other things.
Yeah,
Same way. I agree that yeah, you're right. Jenny, when she's off doing her own thing, I prefer Cassie. And this episode was mostly that, so maybe the writers also
and I
sort of.
liked the episode, but I think it's because they were all they were together very sparingly, and I think
Yeah.
that for me personally is a recipe for success because Cassie and Jenny, when they're on screen together, I'm just like, oh my god!
And
Like the
now
bar
that
scene was so bad that it was.
and
But
now that Jenny's now a sheriff, under sheriff or whatever, so they'll work together, but they'll be, I think, a little more split.
God, I hope so.
But all right, yeah, that's about it. Very excited for next week. This will definitely be a highlight of my weeks going forward. Not sure when this review is going up on a Sunday. We might try and get them up a little earlier. They changed the schedule so that it doesn't. We don't have access to the show until Fridays, and so that's a I don't know. We'll see but we'll get these reviews between Fridays and Sundays every week. We'll see how it goes. Because what was it, Wednesdays last week?
Yeah,
Yeah, so we were able to get them up on like Thursdays sometimes. But all right, anything else?
no, I think that's it.
All right. So yeah, we appreciate everyone listening. If you have any theories or is there anything we missed, put that in the comments. We love reading those, especially for Big Sky. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.